Hello everybody, my name is Average Election Enjoyer here on September 22nd of 2025, and today I just want to give a few sort of like where I believe the 2026 Senate races, where they sort of stand as of today. Um, to do that, we're going to look at some recent polls as well as the 2026 Senate forecast by race of the White House. Um, Here we can see I'm using 270 to win their map, and I already have all the states that I would say are most likely going to be safe here. Um, Not in terms of just margins, just in likelihood of a upset, I guess. The ones that are red, deep blue. Um, as we see here, Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, Illinois, Virginia, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Delaware. I'm going to all put them all as under deep blue, very likely. Obviously, there's something could happen. Like one of these senators could, or incumbent senators or candidates could do something ridiculous, and that could cost them an election. It's happened before. More ridiculous things have happened. Uh, Alabama had a Democratic senator just like less than 10 years ago. So, as I said, or maybe a little bit more than that, but definitely under 2 decades ago. It hasn't been too long. In the 2000s, they've had a blue senator. So crazier things have happened, uh, and but just in all likelihood, nothing's going to be changing in these races. And then for the Republicans, we have Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, South Carolina, and Florida. Um, so Republicans, as you can see, starting with a big advantage. A lot of their races for this year are already decided. Democrats having only a few races to spare. If Democrats want to recapture the Senate anytime soon, they gotta do this about perfectly. They gotta win all the races. They gotta get all the holds. They can't lose. They gotta win Maine. They gotta win Michigan. Would be devastating if Democrats lost this race. Similarly, if something crazy happens in Texas or Alaska, Mary Peltola runs. But we'll get into that later. But there is potentially some devastating races for both parties to look at. So first, I want to go into what I would classify as the likelies. The states that are most likely going to be going to either party, but unlike the safe, the chances isn't just like 1% or 2%. It's a little bit more of a chance, about 1 in 4 chance maybe, but still not likely going to happen. But that's why not likely going to the other party will win these races, but in the realm of possibility. So if we look at this 2026 Senate election forecast from race to the White House. As you can see, Republicans 64% chance to win, Democrats 36. I am surprised that it's even this high for the Democrats to win the Senate majority in this year. That would be, I'm not high on the Democrats' chances of winning even next 2 years. If they want to recapture the House by 2028, miracle is going to need to happen. Not miracle, everything's going to need to go right. They're going to need to win all the seats. It's going to need some decisive victories. Projected seats 48.8 for the Democrats, 51.2 for the Republicans. Again, surprising numbers for me. I would have had figured that because of how I guess they're really accounting for this national environment. There's a lot of people who are thinking there's going to be a big blue wave in 2026, and I think that there will be definitely a shift towards the Democrats, but it's really hard to predict how many. That's why you see a lot of the polls, especially 2024 and 2020. Democrats were doing really, and 2016 for that matter, Democrats doing great in all those polls. However, a lot of Trump supporters would come out who wouldn't necessarily do the polls, so the polls were always skewed. However, midterms, Democrats have done well in the midterms, so we'll see if the Democrats' trends in the midterms keep going or Republicans are able to turn that around. And I am not yet convinced that this is going to be a big blue wave, but I definitely think that there is a noticeable shift. for the Democrat support here, just because the nature of a lot of the policies that you see from Republicans not necessarily popular with people. So as I was saying, they had Montana as likely and Nebraska and Kansas. However, I just don't think there's really a chance in any of these races. Like they're gonna something really crazy is gonna need to happen. Except in Nebraska, I actually have that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that soon. And then for UC Minnesota, 81 to 19%. Only two toss-ups they have on their map is Maine and Michigan, with Democrats holding the advantage in both of them. However, because they're toss-ups, it's just a coin flip. They got Texas surprisingly close, Alaska also surprisingly close, Florida. I disagree with this. Florida, I think, just because the influx of people into the state, especially during pandemic, I think that Florida is a state that is going to be red for a very long time. Georgia, they have is lean, and North Carolina tilt. However, that's because of the strength of the candidates there, so that somewhat makes sense. And Virginia is now very safe. New Mexico, they don't have as safe at all. However, only a 7.6% chance for the Republican there, so highly unlikely. So I just want to start by filling out some of these likely states. I think for the Democrats, Minnesota, likely state. Harris did not as well as obviously Joe Biden did in 2020. However, it still remained a strong state. It was the only Midwest state that they actually ended up winning, and it's been holding strong. Tim Walz is still relatively popular there. That's going to help the Democrats when he's going to be at partly at the top of the ticket along with the Senate race. And so this is going to be I think a very not a resounding victory, but it's not likely for the Republicans to crack, and trends are not exactly on their side there. The other state I would like to say is New Hampshire. As you can see, some of these recent polls here, Papa's only up by 3, but the other two against, and this was from Coefficient, have Papa's up 10, 12, and it has, so it could be, this one poll says it could be a relatively close race. However, you can't put all your eggs in the one basket and for these polls, and I guess we'll see as more polls come out. However, I'm not see some more very good polls for the Democrats, so I'm not convinced yet to make it any is safe for the Democrats or lean for the Republicans. I'm not convinced. Some people are saying that Republicans are going to do particularly well in New Hampshire, and I don't yet really see the hype around that, so I'm going to keep it as likely Democrat. For likely Republicans, I think that you're going to see I think first of all, Texas. Texas is just, with the entrance of James Tallarico, I think he's a very good speaker, from what I see, and I think he's got a lot of support behind him. His campaign seems to be up and running. Colin Allred also overperformed. Texas was 14 points for Trump. However, Allred only lost by 9, so it was about 5-point overperformance. So if you can see in a national environment where it's more like 2020, where Texas was only 6 points, and either Colin Allred or there's going to be a primary battle there between Colin Allred and James Tallarico. I think both are fine candidates. I think Tallarico somewhat has an advantage as a better speaker and also maybe a more compelling political background, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm not sure how the Democratic Party in Texas is going to vote in regards to that. However, I think both candidates will be fine. It would just take if Democrats can get the popular vote plus 5.6 plus anything more than that points, it could even plus 4 points, Texas could get fairly competitive. However, I'm not convinced yet. I think that there are lots of Texas voters who say they're independent right now but are going to come back home for the Republican Party. and I think there's a lot of voters that are unaccounted for inside the polls. So I think that Texas should remain as a likely state for the Republicans. I think that the next state, I'm just gonna put Alaska as likely. Alaska, kind of controversial for me, because the big unknown for Alaska is if Mary Peltola is going to be running in this race. She can either choose this race or the governor's race. Nothing has been set in stone yet. Chuck Schumer is currently courting her to run for the U.S. Senate, because Democrats, they got a lot of good contenders out. They got Sherrod Brown, who used to be Ohio senator, lost in 2024. However, he's going to be rerunning in Ohio, so Democrats are actually doing a fairly good job, except for Michigan, of getting out their candidates, the people who they want. Roy Cooper, North Carolina, John Ossoff rerunning in Georgia. So Democrats got a lot of the candidates that they want in some of these races, and if the Chuck Schumer's able to get his way, I could see this becoming a lean. Mary Peltola, she won at-large in Alaska already. In 2022, she won their at-large House of Representatives seat, and then in 2024, when she lost, it was only a 2-point margin. So if the national environment is right for the Democrats, I can see Alaska actually being, and Mary Peltola runs, of course. If anyone else runs, it's not going to be particularly competitive, but if she runs for Senate and the national environment is just right, I could see this race getting very, very, very close. Very, very scary for Republicans there. However, just because we don't know, so I'm just gonna be thinking about this as and also the Republican senator is better than the reason Mary Peltola was able to win that House of Representatives race. Bad candidates on the Republican side, so that really hurt the Republicans as well. So I think that Alaska for now goes as likely until anything sort of gets announced from the team. Next race, I think I would like to put for likely. I think I'm going to go with Iowa. Iowa is a state that is interesting. It was in the news. Joni Ernst, their senator, dropped out of running for in 2026. She's going to be retiring at the end of that term. However, she was facing a lot of backlash for her comments. She said, quote unquote, "We all are going to die some way," when they were asking about health care. So she got a lot of flack for that, dropped out of the race. So it's yet to be seen if that's actually going to help the Republicans there, if she's so unpopular that the Republicans are actually getting hurt by her staying in the race, or if the incumbency factor is actually going to hurt them. So I'm just not convinced enough to see Iowa as a state that is going to be extremely close. Same thing with Nebraska. Dan Osborne, independent, however, he does seem to align more with the Democrats. Has done a good job of keeping his independent label. He got a lot of support from Democrats in Nebraska. He overperformed by quite a few points, so national environment gets really, really blue, then we can see how close that race can get. It's just a lot of these races just depend on the sort of national environment that we're looking at, and I am not yet convinced that there is going to be a sort of blue tsunami that people are really hoping, or that a lot of Democrats are really hoping for. I am convinced that there's going to be a shift towards the Democrats. I don't think it's going to be a Trump-friendly environment, or a Republican-friendly environment in this case. But I'm not yet convinced that it's going to be a blue tsunami that many are hoping for. So to get into the leans, I'm going to have to start with Georgia. For the Democrats, I think John Ossoff is a fine candidate. I think that he's doing a good job fundraising. He's good at running those very competitive campaigns. He's really getting his image out there, and I don't think the Republicans are doing good enough to put up a sort of a major fight. I don't think it's going to be a blowout victory for the Democrats by anything means, but I think Jon Ossoff is most definitely going to take this one home. Sorry, for the last likely, I want to let me for the last likely state. I forgot about Ohio. Ohio, Sherrod Brown's going to be running. However, he lost. He did overperform again, but he lost relatively decisively in this state, and he's facing a relatively strong Republican incumbent here. So I don't see how Jon Ossoff has a high chance at, or at least even a good chance at, a decent chance at taking this election. So I'm going to have to put that as likely. However, as things keep progressing, we'll see really what kind of happens in this race. This is one that I'm going to be looking at pretty closely. For the second lean state, I'm going to put North Carolina in terms of for Roy Cooper. This one I'm actually, these two I'm like fairly confident in. Not that because their margins are so close, I gotta put them in lean. However, I'm fairly certain Roy Cooper is gonna do pretty well. He's been popular. He hasn't lost any statewide races. He has a lot of. He's a very popular governor. Has a lot of recognition, name recognition. So I think that him and Jon Ossoff are actually. This would be a hold. This would be a flip. I think that this is the most likely chance for Democrats to gain a flip. He's very popular in North Carolina, and I think that he's going to do well in 2026. And then for the final Democratic lead, I'm going to have to say Michigan, just because Michigan had a long streak of electing Democratic senators. This is the last one. I'm the least confident in Michigan in terms of a Democratic hold. I'm almost inclined to put it as Republican just because of how poorly the Democratic Party is sort of doing in this state. Democrats this year, as I mentioned earlier, great job getting out really good candidates. Roy Cooper, North Carolina. You got a choice between Colin Allred and James Tallarico, both of whom I think are quality candidates here. Alaska, you could have Mary Peltola. You have Jon Ossoff in Georgia. You got Sherrod Brown, best candidate you could possibly have in Ohio. So you got a lot of the best Democratic candidates getting out there. Michigan, only state that they're sort of doing a poor job in that regard. Democratic field, not very confident and not very inspiring, I guess, if you're a Democrat looking in at this race. So this is going to be a race if you're a Republican to look at, because that is definitely a state that you have a chance at flipping upcoming in 2026. And then the final state, Maine, I'm going to have to keep it as lean Republican for now. Just Susan Collins just has so much name recognition in Maine. And the field, the Democratic field, again, similar to Michigan, I should have mentioned Maine. Also, the Maine Democratic field for Senate is not exactly the most confidence-inspiring. There's a new Democratic candidate who's trying to run a more grassroots campaign, and a lot of people are getting excited about that. But I'm yet to be seen. There's no polls about it. He doesn't have the name ID. He needs to win the primary first of all. Graham Planter is his name. He needs to win the primary first of all before I can sort of take a look at how I think he would do against Susan Collins. So for now, I'm just going to keep it as a lean because I think, as I said, there's going to be a shift towards the Democrats. Maine is a blue state. I think Susan Collins is going to take a hit. It's going to be a competitive race, but I think that she has the upper hand in this race. So as of September 22nd of 2025, I have it 52-48 for the Democrats with one gain coming in North Carolina. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your guys' day.